Hi everybody, Bobby Ogilvy, Project Manager and Professional Coach. Today's question: in a startup environment, is it more important to be strategic, considering strategy, thinking about plans and what's next, or to be productive, to be highly operational and task focused? So, before I answer this question, why don't we just recap what a startup is? You're this new fledgling organization. You're trying to find a way to deliver value, and you have a very limited financial runway, or even a bit more generous. You're playing this running battle against money in versus money out, trying to find a sustainable business model, right? Sustainable financial model. So, given that, actually another thing I will say, you're also fighting generally a new market, a new value question. It's not that there's an existing thing you're doing. You're probably trying to do something new, innovative, different. There's a new way you're trying to add value, or even just in relation to the organization itself. There's not some established thing. You're baking this from scratch, right? This is coming out of nothing. So given that, which do you think is more needed? So I would say it's on the productivity task operation side, because you need to be productive enough to be able to get that revenue in to create a sustainable financial model that you can keep going. It also means that you need to be, you could think of it as actionizing, executing enough. You can't just have some idea or talk about what you'd like to do, or what I see sometimes with startups, some of you may have gone to startup weekends or things like that, is people that often don't have a strong technology or product or engineering background that can make the thing, but they have some sense of what's possible. They get kind of obsessed with this kind of dream they've created, or they don't know how to put it into action. And so at some point you're hearing the same story over and over, and you think, well, shouldn't they be clear on the same story? Yes, but if it doesn't change, and if it's not able to take input and feedback, it's never honing. So in this execution sense, the way I'm talking about it here has a sense of revenue, sales, money in, but it's also very much true in terms of product management, product development. Honing a product over time and ensuring it's delivering value to some customer, some audience, some target market, right? So again, the more you can talk specific about that, the better. And that way, the kind of lean business model, iterative method, scientific process, the engineering design process are all kind of the same. They're all these iterative cycles where you're conceiving and then making this thing, showing it to people or putting it in use, getting feedback so you can improve it, and keep doing that cycle over and over again, right? If you don't do something productive, real, product-y or salesy, there's nothing ever crunchy that manifests to let you do this. So that's why between the two, really startups, given their limited money, and the main thing is a limited time window in relation to money, given their burn rate and how that creates a financial runway, that's why you want to be very productive and task-oriented. Now remember, people have different skills and strengths. You need these to grow, and you just operationally you need a team, right? Strategy is good, and strategy is really important in this end because it helps you spot what the next growth milestone is. It helps you know that, okay, like we need to do this in the next 6 months, or this in the next 12 months, or whatever it is, to know what this win would look like, as opposed to just getting lost in busy work. I will say there are lots of things that if you're measuring your success by just how busy you are, which are wrong KPIs, wrong indicators. I know one habit you can get into is going to lots of networking events, or even if you start to get even just a little bit of a name, going to lots of almost celebration-y type events, even where people might kind of schmooze you, maybe brown nose you a bit, but you're still not that far along, and you're still very much forging that sustainable business model, forging that success. So don't get lost in that. And the strategy is helping you spot what those growth milestones are. And the better you can do strategy, the more you can see multiple growth milestones in the future, and help make sure those resources, people, contacts, partnerships, whatever, are lined up so that when those are coming to fruition, they're that much easier and faster to hit. What you don't want, so back to the time portion of the financial runway, or the burn rate, and how that's giving you limited time. What you don't want is to, have one little success or win, or hit one of your milestones, and then realize you didn't line up the stuff for the other ones, which you should have been doing, and spend a whole lot of extra time. And, oh yeah, we lost 9 months or 18 months because we didn't have A, B, C, D lined up. Frig, if I'd been thinking about that 2 years ago and been working on that at the same time, we could have saved ourselves a year and a half, right? That's the kind of things you don't want happening. But in general, people that get, I should say, too obsessed with strategy, they can be a bit too perfectionistic, and they don't become concerned enough with making something real, operationalizing it. You could think of also their strengths tend to work on improving things. So a lot of you guys have probably heard terms like process management or performance management, and that tends to be more of strategy improvement-y stuff. So just a snapshot of how small versus large organizations deliver value, right? Part of what makes you a startup is that you're creating this new product or service which delivers value, right? So the way larger, more established organizations ensure that they're profitable and delivering value is that they're playing a lot of kind of efficiency, process, operations improvement, performance improvement kind of games, which can help in lots of ways. But two more obvious quantitative ones are that it's like, how do I maximize profit and minimize expenses, right? And again, there's also good talent and process and culture ways you can do that as well, right? But that notion of kind of honing and making something more efficient is very different than the notion of building this brand new thing from scratch, and particularly so when you think of the notion of markets, because this efficiency play can basically start to generate competitive advantage, generate a marginal efficiency in existing competitive markets. But startups are really a lot of times forging something from scratch. They're dealing with best case scenario, perfect blue oceans, no competition because they're making something totally new, or more likely you're dealing with an emerging market where there's far fewer competitors and there's very few players dealing with this new innovative product, right? And so you're delivering this new thing from scratch. So there is a point to strategy, but in this context, startups really need as much productivity as possible. I hope you guys understand that. And so if you're a guy, if you're a guy or girl, if you're a person that's not that prone towards productivity and action, from a team standpoint, remember, entrepreneurship, startups are a team game. You want to be finding people that are. If you're someone that is, two types of how I see this are intellectual or creative, but not actiony enough, in the sense that maybe you're a kind of analytic or engineering type and you want a perfect answer, and it's hard for you to actionize or do something unless someone is very clear on something, or unless it's some super high caliber. That's one way you can shoot yourself in the foot. And then the other way you can shoot yourself in the foot is that you get kind of heady or thrill-seeky or kind of painfully optimistic about ideas and opportunities, and these things which, there might be useful, but they're really maybe not even big wins, or they're very small wins. They get kind of over-amplified, and you can get kind of, optimistic but diluted in that way, or almost like you can't hear or deal with negative evidence. Like the way you think and what you want to experience are kind of incongruent with reality, right? I deal with lots of kind of mindfulness circles, and there can be lots of people which are, they like ideas, they like to talk about stuff, some of them, that's very much how they operate, but they always seem to be straying away from action, evidence, results. How do you improve? And the more you can get yourself in that grounded, phenomenal operation side of things, the better. Again, people have all sorts of character strengths, and you can build and develop competencies over time. And so I don't think every person needs to be this way. People should play to their strengths. And then the personal question then is to say, okay, well, given these strengths, what strengths do I need around me? Or even what size organization, what kind of context, what organizational context would I fit best in? So just because you have certain strengths in certain areas doesn't mean you can't work in a startup, but what else are you going to need to make this a success? Again, it's a team sport. Okay, back to the start. Strategy versus productivity. What you need in a startup, you need productivity. Strategy helps. Strategy can help make sure that you can hit your line up resources at time to hit growth milestones in quick succession. But if you can't operate, if you can't execute quickly and learn quickly, you got nothing, and you're going to die in the water. And you also have no hard evidence to improve and hone. So that's it. Hope you learned something today. I'm Bobby Ogilvy, Project Manager and Professional Coach. I will talk to you guys soon.